And welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, the bulldozers are getting prepared for massive demolition of buildings situated under the nation's power lines. The federal government considers another refinery in the north to ease the challenges of product scarcity. 3 airports are set by the federal government for concessioning. And projected results in the French presidential election show Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen going into the runoff. Owners of buildings under power lines have been worried that the federal the federal government is getting ready with bulldozers to clear off all such structures. The government's decision follows the tragic incident in Calabar, Cross River State, where football fans were electrocuted after a feeder cable snapped, falling on a viewing centre where over 80 football fans were watching a game last Thursday night, leaving many people dead.
It's not a week the people and the government of Cross River State will forget in a hurry. What was meant to be a means of relaxation ended rather tragic when an electricity feeder cable snapped and dropped on the roof of a viewing center. It's an incident that has drawn sympathizers from all walks of life. And on this occasion, another group is visiting Calabar to condole with the state on the tragic football event. The delegation is led by a representative of the Minister of Works, Power and Housing. Their visit takes them first to the office of Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company.
We will, in partnership with government, go through the panel of inquiry, carry out every investigation necessary to ensure that we understand and know what the root causes of this are and take necessary actions to ensure that this does not happen again.
Part of the resolution here is to disconnect electricity in the area around the incident as safety measure.
This is not just Calabar, Cross River or the South-South, but this is a national issue because whatever is happening in the network here is happening all over the country. And we are going to make a very strong statement and decision that structures that are under the line, which are not supposed to be there, because that's what we call right of way, definitely to avert this kind of situations, we definitely need to make sure they are taken out. And it's going to actually be not just Cross River State, it's going to be a national assignment. And it's something that Mr. President, in fact, felt unhappy about this incidents, because when you talk about electrocution in other countries, it's alien.
Second call is to the community before proceeding to the University of Calabar Teaching Hospital, where most victims are receiving treatment. Aside the planned nationwide demolition by the federal government, the incident perhaps also speaks to the need to overhaul most downstream utilities of the power sector to optimize service and forestall any danger associated with preventable electricity accidents.
The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachuku, says the federal government is planning to build a second refinery in the northern part of Nigeria. The government is also to rehabilitate the Kaduna Refinery to consolidate oil exploration exports in that region. Dr. Kachuku told journalists in Bauchi that necessary arrangements are being made to commence oil exploration in the region, key among which is ensuring that fiscal incentives are put in place to ensure uninterrupted operation once exploration begins.
The North has to partner in our oil wealth in very many forms. Downstream is very key. What do we do with the refinery? We're looking at the potential of the second refinery with a pipeline running from Niger into the north at some point to create a second refinery, which will create a big hub of activities. We're looking at how to develop and also remodel the Kaduna Refinery and improve its petrochemical complexes so we can go back to being able to produce vast area of products that were essential for petrochemical growth.
Meanwhile, the people of the Niger Delta are anxious to see how the modular refineries promised by the federal government will be implemented. As they awaited the takeoff, leaders of the region and experts have been looking at the challenge of setting up modular refineries by people ravaged by many years of oil pollution and pipeline vandalism. Our correspondent Emmanuel Irei takes a look at the project and the preparedness of the Niger Delta people for modular refineries.
A helicopter flyover view reveals pockets of illegal refineries scattered around the creeks of the Niger Delta and the damage done to the ecosystem by the activities of suspected oil thieves. According to naval sources, there are over 5,000 creeks in the Niger Delta and many thousands more of illegal refineries and bunkering sites. A situation that continues to pose great risk to the economic and environmental development of the country. Underground is a typical illegal refinery. Tanks and drums are used to heat up the highly inflammable petroleum to extreme and explosive temperatures, exposing the operators and the communities to danger. And whether the destruction of the illegal sites by security agencies has made the situation better is another matter. During a visit to Rivers State towards achieving sustained peace and development in the Niger Delta, the Vice President gave a picture of the federal government's plan to change the narrative.
This is why we'll be ensuring that our refineries are up and running, while also encouraging the establishment of co-located refineries. Our petrochemical industries and fertilizer plants will similarly be boosted. We'll be relying on private sector investments to do a lot of what needs to be done to boost this sector.
A Niger Delta youth leader, however, makes a case for the operators of the illegal refineries.
The government should, rather than go after these guys, which had become an endemic situation, they should engage them. Now, they should rather register with government as an association, and then where they will pay the fine tax to government.
A mechanical engineer and an expert analyzes in his office the figures behind establishing modular refineries.
Approximately $15,000 to refine a barrel of crude oil. And usually when you are looking at modular refinery, you are looking at about 5,000 to 10,000 barrels per day refined product. And you'll be looking at almost $150 million to set up a 10,000 barrel per day modular refinery. That is the standard worldwide.
After decades of experience in the petroleum sector, this leader in the region believes establishing modular refineries will remain a dream if left to the people.
Except and if only government comes out with certain pragmatic measures that are feasible, that are realistic, not idealistic in concept, but that are realistic and achievable, that each local government in the Niger Delta area, made up of about 6, 7, or 8 states, shall be given a modular refinery and will be given XY amount, and social company are going to monitor and manage the project.
As the wait continues for the federal government to present a blueprint for the operations of modular refineries, the word in the streets is that the talk about modular refineries should not just end up as a trending topic for discussions, but through a well-guided policy framework can become a reality in the Niger Delta. Emmanuel Irei, Channels Television News.
The Minister of State for Aviation, Hadi Sirika, has identified the concession of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport and 3 others as the next big projects after successful rehabilitation work on the runway of Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Mr. Sirika told our correspondent in Benue State that the interests of Nigerians will always be top priority in any decision that government takes in the sector.
In our wisdom, we decide that we're going to concession these airports, as is a practice all over the world. I keep insisting that even Qatar, the richest country on earth, have concessioned their airports. And the next big thing that we'll do is that we'll concession those 4 airports: Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Kano. And in the next phase, we take airports like Enugu and so on. And then we hand them over, and we are not selling them. And then, of course, after a certain number of years, it will be returned to the people. So we will take them back. And I think that's the way to go. And I think that we are able to do so. We have the approval of His Excellency Mr. President to carry on. And that's what we see next in our own activity. But just before the concession, that we would, funds permitting, upgrade these airports and make them to acceptable limits. And then, of course, we will make them better. We will make them more ideal for even the concession itself. We will add the value to the concession. And then thereafter, of course, we would get it to the level we want to get it to.
Whistleblowing in Nigeria is now being extended beyond financial crimes to illegal ownership of small arms and light weapons. The presidency has started drawing up the rules of a whistleblower mechanism to throw a spotlight on the regime of gun ownership and control in the country. This is contained in a statement from the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Mr. Garba Shehu, who says the aim is to disarm communities, especially those with an inclination to violence. The statement adds that the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Munguno, is working on a template for uncovering illegal weapons through a reward system, similar to the whistleblower policy under the Ministry of Finance. According to Mr. Shehu, the administration wants to take a tough line to curtail the large number of illegal weapons in circulation used in intra- and intercommunal conflicts. Meanwhile, the Nigerian army has recovered a large cache of arms in southern Kaduna. In a statement, the army says troops of one division conducting Operation Harbin Kunama 2 discovered the weapons on a cordon and search operation in some areas of southern Kaduna on Saturday, April 22nd. The Director, Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Sani Usman, says efforts are ongoing to track down the owners of the arms and ammunition. The recently launched Operation Harbin Kunama 2 will also cover some forests in Bauchi, Kano and Plateau states. The Parliament of Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is advocating the adoption of a uniform regulation and sanctions in West African pharmaceuticals industry. The regional parliament believes the unification of the industry will be a key factor in the fight against the fake and counterfeit drugs in the sub-region. At the end of a 5-day meeting in Monrovia, the Liberian capital, the parliamentarians called for severe sanctions for fake drugs offenders at national and transnational levels. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafo, reports.
For more than 5 days, the Committees on Health and Social Services and that of Trade, Customs and Free Movement deliberated on the effect of counterfeit and fake drugs in the West African sub-region and how to give more life to the ECOWAS policy on curbing counterfeit medical products and expired drugs. Some of the reasons adduced by the committees responsible for the proliferation of fake and counterfeit drugs includes the absence of evaluation tools in member states, lack of capacity of regulatory agencies, weak legal frameworks across member states, slow and complex legal trials, and porous and unrestricted nature of the sub-regional borders. To tackle this headlong, the committees recommended to the plenary of the ECOWAS Parliament the establishment of a uniformed regulatory and legal framework for all ECOWAS member states, which must also include sanctions that are severe and rigid as a way of deterring will-be offenders, thereby reducing the fatality caused by fake and counterfeit drugs. They urge member countries to make budgetary and operational provisions for transnational operations across the member states and also utilize international police to track manufacturers of these drugs in their home countries. Some lawmakers at the meeting explained the reason for their recommendation and how they will ensure that the parliament in their countries provide the necessary support for the position of the ECOWAS Parliament on fake and counterfeit drugs.
In a 15-nation community that we have in ECOWAS, we cannot afford to have
one country that has stringent laws to fight counterfeit drugs, while the other one is not doing so. By so doing, you will be encouraging these traders, illicit traders, to move from the country that is stringent to where, it is less stringent.
We should have that uniform approach. If it's going to be stringent, it has to be stringent in Ghana, it has to be stringent in Nigeria, it has to be stringent in Liberia, it has to be stringent in Cote d'Ivoire, it has to be stringent in all the other countries.
I'm ready to sponsor a bill where it will bring death penalty or life imprisonment for people dealing in counterfeit drugs or substandard drugs, because it's really, really affecting the lives of Nigerians.
It remains to be seen if the recommendations of the Parliament will be accepted and implemented by member states. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, more political disagreements in Kogi State as groups trade words over attack on Senator Dino Melaye's house. Please stay with us.